Our VBC happy hour. It is 1 minute to 7. We will soon be letting people in from the waiting room on this, at least in Pittsburgh, beautiful Monday evening. Oh, good. She's connecting to audio. We are getting there. This is good. Yep, there we go. We're good. So we could ask her to unmute. I'm going to start the music. Here we go. Share.
That's wonderful, but you're going to have to clearly, you can see that I don't know what I'm doing. On my own, I'm very shaky.
You know,
Sandy.
who is it? Who is it that said, like, you never want to, the process of making laws is like, you know, making sausage. You never want to see it happen. Well, some of you saw it happen here a little bit, just in the nick of time. We got our guest, Sandra Ortega, on. Sandy, I'm Todd DiCastino. Good to meet you, but I'm going to throw it to Sean Hall.
Oh, thank you so much for your patience. I didn't want to start crying, believe me, because I've been waiting for this.
We've been waiting for this, Sandy. It's so great to have you here with us. Welcome everyone to Veterans Breakfast Club happy hour for Monday, May 9th. Yeah, we were sweating bullets a little bit here.
Nick of time. You came in exactly at some. We've been working on this, and there's
a theme here, Sandy. I think that will extend over the course of the episode of just in the nick of time. And
well, you have done what a lot of people through my career, my life have done, just done whatever it takes to help me all they can. Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here with us. We're going to get to you and your story and spotlight you here in just a minute. We're going to go through a couple bits of announcements here and welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us for this evening's program. Our guest of honor, Sandra Ortega, is going to be here to talk about her story. We have, pretty incredible story to go through here in just a couple minutes. But to start, we'll just go ahead and thank the sponsors. As we usually do, we have some pretty wonderful sponsors that have been with us for several months now. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint here so that everybody can see who they are. We have DNDautosalvage.com. These guys started as a small metal recycling, and they've kind of grown over the last 50 years into a full service metal recycling company. They got two locations, Lawrenceville and Todd. I always mispronounce it as a Pittsburgher. Tarentum. I always say Tarentum, but Tarentum, and I can't get it down as much as I try. But they accept all types of metal, both ferrous and non-ferrous, that may be generated by industrial manufacturing and construction and demolition, small commercial entities, as well as individual customers. If you need to contact them to get a quote or would just like to get rid of some junk, some metal, you can do that at DNDautosalvage.com. They're really wonderful. And we also have tobacco-free Adagio Health. They've also been supporting the VBC for quite some time. And if you didn't watch a previous Scuttlebutt podcast, we highlighted them. They were on the program to talk about tobacco use. They are dedicated to reducing and preventing tobacco use and to getting the word out about the hazards of smoking and secondhand smoke. They're all about health. So they want you to quit. They got classes, nicotine replacement therapy, and a really great quit line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW. How easy is that? It's easy to remember, 1-800-QUIT-NOW. They educate people, children especially, about tobacco use, from cigarettes, cigars, pipes, chews, snuff, and other nicotine products like vaping, which I keep saying, like, after I had my conversation with Tobacco Free, I didn't know how bad vaping was until I talked with them. Vaping's bad. Vaping's really bad. But they advocate for public and private policies that ensure healthy places to live, work, and play. You can find out more about them right there on the website, tobaccofree.adagiohealth.org. Thank you for sponsoring us. The VBC magazine. We are in the throes of finishing the next issue. If you do not get this magazine, it's because we don't have your address. So if we don't have it, please send it to us. Or if you're not getting this magazine, please send us the address. Todd, can you give us a preview of what people have to look forward to in the next magazine?
You know what? Why don't I share my screen and we could share the cover?
Oh,
because we just got it today. We just
Really
got
nice.
it today.
I think I stopped sharing. Oh, wait, there it is. Nope, it's bouncing all over my screen. There.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, hold on a second. Because I do have the cover. We've just finalized the cover, and I think this is the final cover here.
You guys may know the name of the person that is editing this magazine.
Yes.
A wonderful editor named Ellie DiPastino. She is helping us out with the magazine.
Here we go. Let me, okay, here it is. Okay. You
I'm on the
ready?
edge of my seat.
I know, you should be. It's pretty exciting. Hold on. Here we go. Ta-da! This will be the summer VBC magazine. The featured story is Rescued from the Tomb of the Unknown. It's the one and only person who was buried from the Vietnam War in the Tomb of the Unknown in the Vietnam crypt. And it turns out he was identified, and he should have been identified even long before he went in the tomb. We also have an article, big feature on the ground war in Ukraine by one of our guests here on BBC Happy Hour, Galen Peterson, World's Most Dangerous Highway, about Route Irish in Iraq. Doug Satterfield wrote that. We have a meet the VBC board of directors and lots of other stuff in the magazine. So this will be going to the printer by the end of this week, and people should be receiving it in their mailboxes by mid-June, certainly.
It's a very good magazine. Again, if you don't get it, it's because we don't have your address, so please please give that to us so that we can get that off to you. It is free. But what is not free, though, is if you come on to our website and you want to become a member, it's $36 a year. You get a magazine, you get some other really wonderful things like us saying thank you, and you also get these incredible BBC pin. So if you are not a member yet, please join as a member. We'd love to have you a part of it. It's such a nice pin. It really is. I should put it up here on my collar. Moving on, we also had a new Scuttlebutt episode. We're into season 6 now, which I host. It's a pre-recorded podcast. This is the most recent episode. Ryan All, who is a retired Army, he's currently in the reserves. His friend, who he went to lieutenant school with, David Winnie, joined us. He is an EOD tech, captain in the Army, and had a lot of really interesting educational things to say about EOD, a bit about his story, why he joined, his first time defusing a bomb. But we also talk a bit about The Hurt Locker, which if you've not seen the movie, it's a 2008 Jeremy Renner movie about an EOD guy who's sort of like a wild gun that Ryan despises pretty much. But David had a very good rebuttal of Ryan's review of that movie. And we talk about the new Army physical fitness test that you can see David there. He's kind of a fit guy, just a little bit.
Yeah.
You could say that. But really, really interesting dude. I had a really great time chatting with him. And I don't know why anybody in their right mind would even think of being EOD. Why would you want to walk up on a live bomb and defuse it?
Right.
No thanks.
And he did not have a good answer as to why he joined originally. He did not. I love this episode. You asked him what made you join it to begin with? And he said, well, my buddy told me to join it. And I thought, well, I'm kind of like him, so I'll probably like it too.
Right.
And that was it. That was like the extent of his reasoning. It turns out he does like it, but yeah, he kind of went in cold.
He did. I was really blown away by his story. Pun intended. I didn't mean to say that, but pun intended. But are there any other announcements, Todd, before we get to Sandra's story?
No, we could, we might, I might filter in an announcement or two towards the end, but no, not right now. Let's get Sandra talking.
Sandra, it's from what I hear from your daughters, it's not hard to get you talking, which I've had such wonderful conversations with you over the past couple of months. I was so happy that Mary Klepper, who's here on the call with us, Mary's waving her hand. Mary's from Baltimore. Mary sent us the article that you appeared in and said, hey, this might be a great guest. And so we did our homework. I reached out to your church. We found you. I got to have a really wonderful conversation with you over the phone, and we set this up, which thank you, Mary, for sending us that article.
Thank you, Mary.
Absolutely. You're welcome. I loved your story, and I couldn't wait to hear more about it. And I knew Sean and Todd were the people to go.
Oh boy, we're buddies already. But listen, I tell you how close we are. Guess what? EOD, I was the chief of personnel and administration of the 2705th EOD Squadron.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Hey, at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, we had 13 detachments. I'm listening to you smiling. You're right. Who in the devil would want to do that? I didn't.
So before we get to your personal story, yeah, I was gonna say, what was it like working with those guys? I'm sure they were just a completely different breed.
Whoa, they were a different breed. And they were usually away because I was just the chief of personnel. I mean, I was not EOD per se, which is what they used to say, hey. But hey, I tell you what, 13 detachments right before I retired. So I'm wondering, is that what did it?
Yeah, it might have been. Sandy, let's go way back, well before your military service, in just diving a bit into your history, because you have such a very interesting beginning. Back as far as grade school is before you ever even considered military, you were kicked out of school in grade school.
I was kicked out of school, but I got to make a correction. I never considered the military.
Right.
I never considered it. Somebody who clearly was smarter than I, knew me better than I knew myself, said, this girl will be our token qualified colored first Black female to get this direct commission from President Eisenhower during the Civil Rights Movement. Never once did I consider the military. Never once did I set foot in the military, in the ROTC building. Never once did I have a moment of training. Nobody asked me to take a physical or do any physical exercises or take a medical. They just needed a token colored female or Eisenhower did, to make right what he had promised people of color during the Civil Rights Movement, that he would appoint, when he used these terms, because that's what we were called then, a qualified colored female as an officer in the new burgeoning Air Force that was just about 7 or 8 years old. That they would, I will appoint a qualified female. And that one day, my parents looked up, somebody was ringing the doorbell of our front door, and it was the person who was in charge, the colonel in charge of the ROTC program at Morgan State University, our historically Black university in Baltimore, and the Chief Warrant Officer 5, Mr. Good, who had taken on this mission because someone, an aide-de-camp, who was in the office when President Eisenhower said, okay, I will do this. I will appoint somebody to this newest branch of service to open up try to see how it goes with the waters of integration. And that's, Morgan State took this up as a challenge. And the next thing you know, they're on my front porch asking my mother and father if I can be that token female.
Do you know why Morgan State did that specifically? Was it a nationwide, were all universities and colleges?
I don't know, but I do know that they were very active, and we were in the civil rights movement. They were, we had as administrators of historically Black universities, certainly then, certainly now, change agents. And their mission was to elevate the Black race. That was the mission of the HBCUs. And so a friend of Colonel Stewart, who was the commander of the Morgan State Battalion, their battalion, sent him a message saying, hey, Eisenhower says he'll appoint a Black female. And Morgan State took up the mantle. And how in the world they chose me, one will never know.
How many other females were at your college?
Oh, a lot of females were at my college, and older. I was only 16 years old when I started Morgan, when I started college. And this all happened in my senior year. I turned 20 in March, and all I can think of is that the other women, the older women, was smarter than me. I don't know. And they said, not me, not me. So they had to find somebody. But I also think there might have been something else too, because when I started, as you said, that I went to St. Francis Academy. Yep. St. Francis Academy, when I was put out of my junior high school, and I was put out because that was the era of segregation. We had Black dedicated colored schools. And in each section of Baltimore, Northwest, East, South, there was a dedicated colored school. We were called colored then. And if you didn't, that's the school you went to. There were no more schools. White kids had schools all up and down their neighborhood. But you had a dedicated colored school. So my elementary school was not St. Francis, but Coppin Demonstration School that was in West Baltimore. That was a colored school. I got out of Coppin very early, because what happened in those days is that you started school, it was kindergarten, there was 1A. I got a dog named Hugo. You hear him?
Oh, Hugo was very excited that you're joining us.
He's here. So we had 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, all up to 6A, 6B. And if the teacher thought that you were interested in studying or a good student, they would pass you, promote you. You skipped the B's. I skipped the B's. And so when I went into junior high school, I was only, I don't think I was more, I think I was 11. I was very young. I had skipped all of those B's, which quite honestly made me unfit because I did not fit. I was too young, and you go into school, and you got all these older girls who have breasts and everything else, and they're making fun of you. And so I just, that was a part of what happened to me. And so what also happened to me is that at the time that I started Booker T. Washington Junior High, which was the dedicated colored school, I came down with the worst case of epilepsy, grand mal epilepsy. And it lasted me, as a matter of fact, until I was in the 11th grade.
So what happens whenever you have an episode? What actually would happen?
You have an episode of epilepsy, you may first go into a trance, or you may immediately fall out. You get, it can kill you. You can have strokes. My condition was so severe that every one of my brothers and sisters had a job watching over me. When my parents went to work, They would put a stick in my mouth. They would fall on my body so I wouldn't hurt myself or whatever. They would stay with me until I woke up. I mean, they were with me the whole time. We had boxes of medicine under the bed from the Johns Hopkins Free Clinic. And I remember my mother and father traveling on the streetcars one night with my head in daddy's lap and feet on mother with a box of all of this medicine. And that's how I survived. Luckily, I survived. And so I went to Booker T. Washington. I was ready for junior high school. And being a colored school, or maybe it happened in the white schools too, there were no resources to take care of me. There were no nurses, nothing like that. So they had to put me out. They could not take care of me or have me in that building. And so that's what happened. I was home for an extended period of time, but just home. Taking medicine. Certainly we didn't have any teachers to come in to work with you at that time.
I was going to say, so you were falling pretty far behind at that point because you weren't being homeschooled, right?
No, homeschooled. No, my mother and father were working. But I was really a very studious student. I loved to study. I mean, I used to hide when I was supposed to work under the desk, everything, and read books. And I just loved to study. I loved to help the teachers, you know. So anyway, lo and behold, St. Francis Academy, the Oblate Sisters of Providence built this school, an independent school for poor and colored girls who boarded. They were from all over the country, as were the Oblate Sisters of Providence, who were all over the world, from all over the world. But they came to Baltimore, and in the presence of the penitentiary, they built St. Francis Academy, which still exists today. St. Francis Academy was a godsend. They allowed me to enter. They took care of me. I went there in the morning. They fed me breakfast. They fed me lunch. They had sisters who had every skill. There was a chair that was put up in the back of the room for me when it looked like I was going into a trance, and a nun would give me my medicine. This is, I realize now what a blessing it was to have been Black, and what a blessing it was to have been, you know, in the situation, to have grand mal epilepsy. Everything was a blessing, as I know today. So they took me into St. Francis Academy and took care of me. When I was in the 12th grade, we didn't have any money for me to go to college, but I knew that I always wanted to go to college, and my family always was, you know, education was the thing that Blacks did. That's how you get ahead. That's how you know, become a part of the country.
Can I ask a question? As before the epilepsy sort of went away, when you were that young and you're just trying to go to school and you're trying to learn, were you ever scared of the epilepsy?
I don't know that I was scared of the epilepsy. Grand mal epilepsy hits you so fast that you don't, I mean, before you know it, you're out of it. I mean, you just, you know, have no awareness of anything. And then after a while, if you're lucky, you wake up. I can't remember being scared. I remember, because you're just out of it. I remember just my brothers and sisters over me, holding me. In retrospect, and I've thought about it a lot, I remember what my family went through. I remember that, how much attention I had to have just to, one child out of 6.
Mhm.
And I've thought about that over the years. What
I'm sure
what
I'm sure they felt like they needed to protect you consistently.
Oh, they did. They
Yeah.
did. And they had, I was the child that needed so much help.
Mhm.
And they did it. It was a lot of work. And I feel for people today who have a lot of sickness, whatever, because I realize from my situation what it takes for a family to, handle situations like that.
Yeah.
And so I think about that a lot.
Mary Klepper sent in about St. Francis. It's the oldest continuously operating Black Catholic educational facility in the country, 1828, to teach children of color to read the Bible, including slaves.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And what a blessing. What a blessing.
Yeah.
It's the first time I heard French, first time I heard Spanish. They were nuns from all over the world. And to think that they had every skill. I'm very much in touch with them today.
Mhm.
Very much in touch with them. And it makes me know what women can do when they put their minds to it.
Oh,
I want you to know that too.
Yeah. So you're about to graduate. You really want to go to college. How does that all happen? You guys didn't have the money?
Didn't have anything. As a matter of fact, we didn't even have the money to go to St. Francis Academy. St. Francis Academy at the time was $3 a month. And my mother's girlfriend, who worked at the post office, paid my tuition. My life has been an improbable dream. I have been cared for all my life. And when I think of the and I realize what a blessing it is. I realize because there's no way I'd be sitting here talking to you today had it not been for those who just just picked me up and moved me forward,
Wow.
So Miss Rita paid $3 for me to go to St. Francis Academy. And we had the best of education. I had 2 years of Latin. I had the best of literature. Literature was a big thing. So we talked to the nuns in their language. The only thing, I was very good in school, except in math. In math, it's hard, I can hardly add, but we didn't focus too much on that.
Yeah.
We focused on the good books, literature, language, and stuff like that. So, and in the 11th grade, I remember talking to Sister Mary Laurencia, and we were talking about dreams. And I have always been a dreamer, always. I remember our living in a big house in an enclave, this Black community where the railroad tracks just came by our window.
Mhm.
And I sit at night and listen, look out and look at the train go by and listen to the whistles and just imagine that I was somewhere else. And I've always been one who could sort of take myself somewhere else because I dream, look at the stars. And so, I talked to Sister Mary Laurencia, and she said to me, sit down, gave me a piece of paper. She said, write Morgan State, because Morgan State was the HBCU. I couldn't go to University of Maryland.
Mhm.
I couldn't go to Johns Hopkins. I could only go to that HBCU.
When you say HBCU, what is?
Historically Black HBC.
Historically
Black.
Yeah.
We're historically Black. Good God, they're going to put me out of Morgan.
Historically Black college and university.
University. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I tell you.
They get fun. It's a wonderful program that gets extended every year, and there's money that goes to those schools. And it was a chance for people to have an opportunity when they weren't getting it at, like you say, at places like Hopkins and Maryland, and
Hopkins and Maryland.
Yeah.
And then, so, hey, thanks for rescuing me. See that? All my life. So at
Baltimore
any
girls
rate,
got to stick together.
That's right.
so she said, sit down and write Morgan State. And I remember the letter. I said, dear Morgan State, I told them I was a good student. I remember mentioning my name. I said, if you will admit, I have no money, but if you will admit me to Morgan State, I will make you proud. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks later, we got a letter from Morgan State Board of Trustees saying, welcome to Morgan State.
Oh, what was that like?
Every time I think about it, I feel like I got to hold back tears. I feel like crying. Welcome to Morgan State. And if you don't have to pay a dime for a year, not a dime. If you get a B average, that's what they say, you will keep your money, your tuition.
Yeah.
If you keep the B average, guess what? I did not keep the B average. I'll talk about that.
Uh-oh.
Guess what? I graduated from Morgan State. And all of fame. Didn't keep the B average. And didn't keep the B average because I was in my upper freshman year, and I'm taking Negro history, which was not an elective. You had to take that from the eminent Dr. Benjamin Quarles. That's a good thing about the historically Black university then, because these teachers could not teach elsewhere, they taught me. Can you believe it? I had the best teachers. I had people from all over the world teaching me. Mm-hmm. So when I think about that, hey, maybe those who are white should have been born Black. What do you think?
Certainly.
Teachers. Gracious.
That's incredibly fortunate. Mary, you have your hand up.
I have a question. Is your Dr. Quarles, was his name spelled Quarles?
Yeah.
So the Quarles family is extremely famous. They are without a doubt the largest Black family in Virginia to this day. They are considered I think they are considered the largest in the country, and they are descendants of the slaves from Mount Vernon from George Washington.
And listen, he taught yes. He was my teacher.
That's amazing, because I don't know if it's his son. I'll have to find out. One of them is a tour guide in DC with me, and we call him Q.
Oh, whoa. Gotta meet him. You gotta find him, Gary.
And I'll chime in.
Was my teacher, but guess what? He didn't play. He meant that I'd do well. He saved me. That was their mission. And so my first class was Negro history, because you had to take that. I didn't get to school on time, and because I had to hitchhike. I'm not kidding. I would stand out in the middle of the street with my two brothers who also went to Morgan, and they would hide behind this post. I'd stand out in the middle of the street and flag down cars. Just crazy, but hey, that's what I did.
What you had to do.
Yeah, they would stop thinking it was just me. Oh. So I'd open the door and I'd hop in the car, and next thing you know, my brothers are jumping out in the car, and they would either take us infrequently, or they would say, get the hell out of my car and speed away. But so that's sort of a big way we got to school. I was always late for Dr. Quall's class, 8 a.m., because he had a 15-minute test on Negro history, on the books that he had written. And you would have to take that test, and I would always come into the class when the test was over, it was a quiz each time, or they were discussing it. So one day, Dr. Qualls called me. He was such a wonderful man. He said, called me, said, Miss Williams, can I see you after class? And I said, yes, sir. And I went to the after class, and he said to me, Miss Williams, why are you here? I'll never forget that. Why are you here?
Yeah.
And of course I said something. And he said, I want you to withdraw because I got to fail you. But if you withdraw now, I will try my best to, give you a D or C. Well, I withdrew, but he, in spite of his best, he had to fail me because the quizzes were a big part of the grade. And of course I was failing. In that semester, I got a 1.9 grade point average. That, imagine, how did I do it? Well, it's crazy. I was so busy not getting to school, so busy trying to get to school on time, even trying to get home, so busy, I don't know, trying to fit in because I was so much younger than everybody else. I just, at that time, that extended period of time, just did not fit in. Guys were coming back from Vietnam, and the girls were so much older than I. They had boyfriends. They call me little sis. Mm-hmm. To this day, my classmates call me little sis because I was so much younger. And I'm busy trying to make up for this failure of mine by being a part of everything. The Spokesman newspaper, all the clubs, Delta Sigma Theta. Mm-hmm. They let me in. I didn't have the money to join, but my mother got it from somewhere. And so I got a 1.9. Now, anybody will tell you that a 1.9, having gotten that, I was supposed to have been let go because that was the condition. If you keep a B average, you can stay. Didn't happen to me. It did not happen to me. We got called into the president's, Martin Jenkins' office. And
when you say we, did you mean your parents and you?
No, all of the failures.
Okay.
Of which I was one.
Right.
So, and we had to talk to him. And I think that when he asked me, why are you here? I mean, it just cut me up. Why are you here? I was so embarrassed. I think that my answer, he let me talk to him for a long time to tell him what was going on. And he said to me, I'll see you next semester. He said that. My grandson went to Penn State. Mm-hmm. They put him out. They should have, but guess what? Morgan didn't put me out. Morgan did not put me out. They should have. That was the agreement.
Right.
But their mission was to elevate the Black race, to mentor, to make sure they succeeded. Mm-hmm. That when I think about that, how blessed can you be? And I tell you what, after talking to Dr. Quarles, after listening to Dr. Jenkins, the principal, who, like I say, called everybody in and talked to us, I say in speeches, F is not a failure. It just means getting your act together. Get your act together. And they allowed me, they made it possible for me to keep on, to get my together. And I do believe, I don't know how else they could have chosen me to be that token qualified female in my senior year that Eisenhower said he was looking for.
Right.
Except that Dr. Jenkins was also a part of that choosing team. And I'm thinking that he might have remembered that conversation and me that way, because I had never set a foot, like I say, in the ROTC department. I did not know anything. Females, as you know, this was 1957. And females did not go into ROTC until 72. They didn't go into weren't allowed in the academies until 80. So at any rate, this is what happened. This is the salvation, of the HBCUs. And that's how I was saved. And so I come home in my senior year, I'm 20 years old, because they have allowed me to stay there and get my act together.
Yeah.
I'm coming home. I had to take 3 buses. Then I had to walk down Hill and Road. Then I had to, anyway, I'm coming home. And I look down I'm on my block where my house is, on a corner house. I looked on as I approached the porch, I see Mother and Daddy sitting on the porch. I see my sister there, and I see 2 Black officers, 2 Black men in military uniform on my porch talking to Mother and Daddy.
Did you think you were in trouble?
I had no idea who they were. I didn't know. I'd never had any relationship with ROTC. I didn't know who they were. Come to find out, they were Colonel Willard Stewart and Mr. Good, Chief Warrant Officer 5 Good, on my porch. Imagine coming to my house, asking my mother and father, will you allow your daughter to be this token female? I mean, this is impossible, right? It don't make sense. I mean, who am I? How did this happen? But it did. It's so.
And they didn't agree to it right at first. It took a couple times. Is that right?
Well, my father was, my grandmother was German, and she'd come to America, and she'd married my grandfather, who was a Black man, but all of her children turned out white looking. Most of them passed for white, except my father. I don't know. He had the most piercing blue eyes. This is my father. He had the silver hair. I've been trying to emulate him. Well, the eyes don't go, but the hair, it was Daddy. And my father said, you will not use my daughter. He was very particular about his children, certainly about us, the girls. And he worked, when he had to be white, he was. When he had to be Black, he was. It was that kind of, a Black, I'm digressing, but we lived near a baseball diamond. And they had, I think, AAA baseball teams that would come down there. And Daddy, if they needed somebody, if it was a white team, Daddy, and if they needed a relief player, Daddy would play. If it was a Black team, Daddy would play. All of them knew him. So, and he was the one who, when it came time for Easter, let's say, because we could not go into white stores, we could not shop. My father did all our shopping for us. When we got old enough to wear stockings, the only kinds of stockings they had for Black females were stockings that were called cinnamon and red fox. And so, didn't match our color. And so my father would go and buy stockings for us, stockings that the white girls just laid out for them. And so he was a very particular father who watched over his children, certainly his daughters. And he knew he floated between both worlds. And his feeling was, and there was this feeling that women had gone into the military, Black women, and they were being used by people for sexual purposes. At least that's what my father said. So they ended up, Mr. Good and Colonel Stewart ended up coming to my home 3 times before Daddy said yes. Keep in mind that in that era, you didn't speak for yourself. Nobody asked me, Sandy, do you want to go into the Air Force? Nobody. I didn't even know until I saw them on my porch anything about this. And you know, they came to my parents. My mother was eager because, I mean, you know, that, hey, that's a great thing. Daddy, no. But the third time, I think mother wore him down. The third time he said, okay, we'll give it a try. And he was exceedingly proud of me when I would come home or afterwards. After I got in, he wrote me letters. He sent me the comics. I sent him, when I went to Lackland Air Force Base, I got paid $200 at first, $290. I sent mother $200 for the house. I sent daddy, I got him a $10 bill and sent it to daddy, and he would put it in sit on the porch with a shirt on, with a pocket in it. And he would pull the $10 out as people went by and said, "This, look what my daughter sent me. Look what my daughter sent me." And then when he would, I'd go home on what he called furlough. And I'd say, "Daddy, they don't call it furlough in the Air Force." He'd say furlough. My daughter's on furlough. And he was just very proud. But he's the one that said, no. But then he relented. And
sorry to interrupt, did you have a plan for yourself before this kind of took over?
Yeah, because, very limited because the only jobs you could get were teachers, like elementary school teacher in Black schools. So I remember even applying to be a stewardess, and you weren't accepted. I always imagined at that time, though, I would become an interpreter. And really, in a way, I have. I've taken groups to Paris, and I've done pretty well in my French. Unless I go back soon, it may wither on the wrong line. But I was very good in languages, and that's much of it is because of St. Francis Academy and the nuns, and listening to all of those nuns in different languages, and being introduced to all of that, to those new worlds. So I don't know. In answer to your question, you have so many dreams, but the dreams were short-sighted because our opportunities were so limited.
Yeah.
You know, so I had a lot of dreams.
At what point, I mean, this was kind of decided for you. Did you fight it at all, or did you just say, all right,
No.
this is a good opportunity, let's do it?
No, I didn't. Actually, I just said, okay, because they had made the decision. So what they said went. I mean, that was it. So, and I was very, I don't know, I got a lot of oversight from that moment on. When Daddy agreed, I got the full attention of the Morgan State Command. Mr. Good assigned a driver to me to take me back and forth to Holabird Air Force Base. I went to Holabird Air Force Base for what Colonel Stewart said were fake tests. That's what he said. He said, but you do the best you can. You make us proud. I passed them. They were essays. I remember even taking a test, translating an essay in French. There were psychological tests, but there was nothing to do with the Air Force, with the military. I never, ever, like I said, had to do a doctor's appointment. I never had to, they had to, figure out, okay, am I physically fit? It didn't matter because that wasn't the point. No, I didn't do anything. I just went back and forth for that summer the summer of, when was it, 57? I went, must have been 58 to that year, because I took a plane. They put me on a plane, Morgan State, Granite Airlines, on the 4th of July, 1958. In the meantime, all that year, Morgan State had been handling me. They got my oath of office, all of this stuff, my appointment. They took care of how they did it. I do not know.
Mm-hmm.
How they worked through a system or created one. I do not know, because there was no system for me to be put into the Air Force. It was what happened was that once I finished or did all they wanted me to do at Holabird Air Force Base, I thought I was finished. But then they said the Air Force sent, or Department of Defense sent Colonel Stewart a letter saying that for me to take the oath of office, I had to bring with me a lot of stuff. My mother was working as a helper in the home of Mrs. Brown, a white woman, $2, $3 a day. And we had no money. Daddy started his own business. He would walk every day to cut grass in Forest Park, Maryland. He had a cutting business, lawn mowing. And he'd walk there to Forest Park. He'd walk back home at night. That's how they made a living. So, which is why, of course, when I got in the Air Force, I sent money home, because that was my job. I mean, that was what I was supposed to do.
What was it like? What was it like integrating into the military? If you had no previous,
no training, no. Matter of fact, Colonel Stewart and Mr. Good sat me down, and they said, "We can't help you. We have no way. We cannot tell you what it'll be like. We did not even know it existed." OBMC. He said, all we tell you is to make us proud. This has nothing to do with you. This is a mission about opportunity for the race. That's exactly what they said.
Wow.
I think in retrospect, it was the best thing they could have said to me, because this is how I made it through. Any particulars, I don't think would have been good enough. But I had been used to mission. I knew, I mean, everything about our schooling, our lives were, the whole mission was to be good, get educated, to help the Black race. That was how it was when I was a child. That was this. We've just got out of slavery, this and that. You know, do what you can, get a good job, all of that. That's what you heard as a young Black woman, Black male. And so I was used to mission. Mm-hmm. I was used to that. And so I was able to operate okay and to make it through that way. But anyway, they put me on.
Well, did you, if I may interrupt, did you feel pressure after they told you that feels like a world of pressure?
I can't say that I'm sure I did. I felt pressure, not at that moment, mm-hmm. but I felt pressure when I was faced with circumstances that put me in that I felt put me in jeopardy of being put out. Mm-hmm. And that's when I felt pressure, because I knew that I was on a mission. I knew I knew I had to succeed. I knew that. That was why I was there. There was no other reason for my being there. And so I really, in retrospect, I've always felt that was the best advice they could have given me, which is what I had been hearing all my life. You have a responsibility. Make us proud. You get an education, all of that. So that kept me going.
I pulled up here on the screen Lackland Air Force Base. At what point did you land there?
I landed at Lackland Air Force Base on the 4th of July, 1958. It was like landing on Mars. It is not, it was, I mean, it is not to say that I was not used to segregation, but I had never been used to this kind of, I'd never been used to white only signs. I don't remember that in Baltimore. I remember the dogs and the hoses and all in the street, but I don't remember the signs all over the place. We reserved the right to restrict service, which a sign that was even on property owned by the Air Force, Medina Lake. So it was, and it was really tough to get used to Lackland because but it wasn't a question of getting used to it. It was a question of not being put out. That was the thing that I always dealt with. That was the fear. That was the controlling thing. Don't you get put out. And so whatever it took, you'll find, I looked at myself in pictures, and especially the picture that shows me at the picnic. The white girls are sitting down at the table and I'm standing. And I remember being seen, but being a part of the group, but not seen.
I have that picture here. It says, I showed up every time with a smile, but was never a real member of the team.
I was never really, I was always seen, but not seen. We had,
and you were the only Black female a part of it?
Oh yeah. White girls had been going to OBMC for a while. And I was the first one they admitted. I was the only one. And this was because the president put me in there. He, President Eisenhower. That's how I got there. I didn't go to ROTC. He gave me, he just wrote an appointment, direct commission from my senior year at Morgan State, right directly into the Air Force. I had no idea what to expect. No idea. I got a shuttle bus to the personnel office, and there was this young airman there who said to me, looked at me, and I mentioned my name, what I was there for. He said, we have no file on you. And he was sweet. He said, we were not expecting a you. Of course, I knew what that meant. He saw me, but to think that he would be seeing a woman of color, took him by surprise. But he showed me where the OBMC was, Officer Basic Military Course, where we lived. And I joined a fleet of 20 white women, 20 of them, who'd been in training for a while. And it was me. And I was like somebody out of, I tell you, out of Mars. I was an alien. People would come up to me and just be, especially Black kids enlisted, touch me and then apologize, which is something I wasn't even used to that. I was an officer, but I had got no training how to be an officer. But my classmates would ask me if they could touch my skin. I was really in retrospect, it was, you know, we all ended up getting to know one another, visiting, but they really, I can't blame them. They had no opportunity to get to know somebody with brown skin.
Yeah.
And they would ask me, Sandy, do you tan? All these questions. We had, I would go to the swimming pool, and mothers, wives would scream at their children, get out of the water. It was just how it was. But I learned a lot from that, because one thing I learned, the big thing is, please be kind, be a good person. We would have meetings or get together every month with the white guys who were in officer training, not the foreign officers. Foreign officers fell all over me. I mean, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. So whatever way you looked at it, I was exotic. I mean, they saw me, and I guess they'd heard that Black women, like my father said, were easy to go to bed with or whatever. But I could not stop the phone from ringing with them. White officers never spoke to me because it was taboo. And I talked to somebody years later, and they said, I could not risk a discharge. I mean, it was so taboo that to have a dance with me, which we had once a month. We had monthly dances. Girls would sit on one wall, the 20 white girls and me, and the guys who were all white officers in training, all the AFSCs that like the Air Force says, they would sit on another wall, and they would, the music would start, and they would get up, and they would come across the room. And I knew, because you know things, I knew that I would always be sitting. I knew that nobody would take a chance on touching me or holding my hand or my body. I knew that, and which happened. And so my question to me, I remember two girls sitting, me and another girl sitting on the bench. And the music played. Two guys were left on the other side of the male bench. And I knew, and this was the last dance we had together, I knew that they would come, and whichever one did not get to the white girl first would turn around and go back. So you always knew what would happen. Of course, you're still sitting there all by yourself. I mean, all the time. So
Sandra, that had to be terribly isolating, not only to be in the situation, but in the school and the environment that you were in. How did you stay focused? How did you keep your confidence up? How did you keep pushing and keep succeeding?
Gotcha. The only way, and I know it's true, was Sandy, this is a mission. I knew the responsibility, because I had been Black all my life.
Yeah.
And I knew that my responsibility was to the so-called colored race. I knew it. That was what
there was a higher purpose.
There was a higher purpose. And my fear, what I always was afraid of and had to always try to figure out is, okay, Sandy, how do you make sure they don't feel that you're not a part of things? That how do you act like a member of the group? How do you make sure you don't give them any reason to put you out?
Yeah.
Because they could. I mean, they could just say she's not fit, which happened to me later. And
to do that, did you befriend any of the white women that were there? This question's from Mary. Were they too afraid of their commissions too, or?
They, well, no, they talked to me,
Mhm.
but I was not a friend. Like you see in that picture at the picnic, I was there. They were pleasant, but I'll give you an example. You might know that I did not go to my graduation party. You might know that because I might have written it, somewhere. What happened when it was time? Well, a lot of situations. We had, not only did we have the dances, but we also had beauty contests. We had beauty contests once a month or a quarter.
Boy, the Air Force has changed a lot since then.
I ain't
We at the
kidding.
VBC, we have a beauty
over-
contest every week, but Todd wins every week. So
And I tell you what, this was basic training. And so we had the beauty contest, and they had, they would call, each one of us would, or I never called out any names. Each one of them would call out a name for who was Miss Beauty of the month. Nobody ever called out my name. Now, fact of the matter is, I was better looking than any of those women. Oh, say. And these
and still are.
Let me tell you what, they knew what they were doing. But so they never once said, and I knew it wouldn't happen. They never once said, hey, what about Sandy? Sandy, nah. So the question always is, okay, in the midst of all of this indignity, how you are happy to be here, that you are part of the crowd, that you are, a proud member of this fleet, of the Air Force. How do you do it? I usually kept this, I recall that I was usually smiling because I didn't know what else to do. But you will see a smile on my face in many of the pictures. I remember the lady from Braniff Airlines coming, because we keep in mind we were air ladies. Keep that in mind. AL 070 643 my number. And the lady from Braniff Airlines who helped these stewardesses dress and all of that came to show us how to sit, to walk. We had to wear a girdle.
Didn't know that.
My girdle. You didn't know that?
It was a part of your uniform.
That's one of the things when they said that I had, before I could get into the military, I had to bring a list of stuff. One of the things I had to bring was a girdle. What? I had never imagined a Black girl wearing a girdle. I don't know about white girls, but Black girls. Why would you not? I mean, why would you wear a girdle? Why would you wear a girdle? Why would the Air Force be concerned about you wearing a girdle? But you had to bring a girdle. You had to bring $300 in money. I mean, you had to bring a 26-inch Pullman suitcase. You had to bring an iron. And at that time, my mother was heating an iron on a coal stove. This is why, excuse me just a minute.
Sure.
You had to bring all of this stuff.
We lost your video. Sandy, we lost your video. I'm going to see if that's all right. We just maybe had a little bit of a Wi-Fi slowdown. We can still hear you, I believe. Can you still hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing
Oh,
you.
there you
Greg
go.
is trying to
Okay.
I
All right,
got
Greg.
it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. So, of course, we didn't know, we didn't have any money. I sure couldn't take the iron. And so anyway, all the neighbors, the Morgan State Fair Battalion, Morgan State, they got that money together. They got everything together for me.
Yeah.
And I got on that plane with everything they said I had to have. Had no idea why I had to take all that money. I'd never seen $300 before. But I had to take it. Excuse me just a second.
Yeah, just a second.
Sure.
Oh,
We'll pause real quick.
oh, just connected it.
Mhm.
You were running out of battery a bit.
Yeah, the battery went low.
Okay, that would be why. Everyone bear with us for a minute. Thank you all.
Let me just hold it like it.
Mhm.
Okay, I got it. I'm holding it. And so anyway, when I got there, we had to buy our own uniforms. You know,
Mhm.
they were made for us. And I didn't get paid. I got that $290 a month later. So, and by the time I sent money home to mother and all, of course, I didn't even have enough to eat with. You know, I learned a lot from that too. I learned in retrospect, you start thinking about stuff over the years, and I would reevaluate this situation or that at teaching moments. But I understand what it's like to be poor.
Yeah.
Telling you, I understand this. I said to myself, you know, I sold myself for a sandwich. I mean, you know, and I think about it, and I think of it that way, and I think that's what poverty is like. And I'm so I think about things like that. Because what happened at the end of the month, pretty much towards the end of the month, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money to eat. And so these foreign officers would call me up, and I didn't notice that my colleagues were paying attention to this, but they did. And so in our book, they wrote a poem about me and how how the foreign officers couldn't keep their eyes off me or something like that. But they did. They called all the time. And I would go out with them for lunch. Come on, go out, go out to dinner with me or whatever. Because as an officer, I didn't eat free. I had to pay for my food. I had to pay for everything in basic training. I guess things have changed now, but we had to pay. I had to pay $10 a month for a lady to clean the room, help clean, help that. So at the end of the month, I had no money. So I thought about going out with all these guys, foreign guys, whom I couldn't even speak to because I didn't know their language.
Right.
Guys from Afghanistan, Iran, all over the place, and just to eat. And I'm saying, that's what happens when you're poor. Yeah. So I learned a whole lot of lessons, and so I think of that.
As you're learning the job and dealing with all of these different things, was there a point where someone told you you couldn't, you can't, you're not going to be able to do it? And did you find motivation within that? How did you respond to that?
One big thing that happened to me, is when it was time to graduate. I mean, we graduated, but we had a party, and the Air Force allowed our party to be held in the home of a colleague who was who lived in a home nearby. They allowed this, so this became this was an Air Force party affair, and she came to me before the party. She's in one of my pictures. She came to me and she said she was very She was smiling. It was clear that she felt very, very comfortable about this. She said, Sandy, I hope you understand, but you cannot come to my house for the graduation party. She said, my mother said that the neighbors would not understand.
Wow.
I did not know, as in this case, as in other cases, what to do. I didn't know. Over the years, I've taken apart all of these things that have happened and taken a look at it, learned lessons from them. But for somebody to say to me, I know you'll understand. I mean, what's that? What does that mean? What's that all about? How
Yeah.
can you say that? How can you know that? Or imagine that somebody will understand such an indignity?
Yeah.
I mean, and so when she was smiling at me, and I remember standing there after she left, she just turned and walked away, trying to figure out, what do I do? What do I do and not get discharged? That was always the question.
Right.
And I elected not to make a fuss. I said to myself, this is an Air Force affair. They have, allowed this. If I don't want to make any noise so people would say that, hey, she's not a part, she's hard to get along with, whatever they may say. I don't want to get the leadership in trouble. So I just smiled. And I remember that. And I've tried to look at that over the years. And it hit me one day that she was second lieutenant. I was a second lieutenant. We were both in lateral positions. I mean, we were both the same.
Yeah.
Both the same. But from the moment she said that to me, she became my master and I became a slave. She became superior and me inferior. I mean, we were no longer in lateral positions. I was no longer, her at her level.
Right.
She had diminished me to such an extent that I had no.
Oh no. I had a feeling we would probably end up losing Sandy. Her
Yeah.
Her internet was getting kind of bad
There
there.
she is. She's back. She's back.
Oh, good.
Didn't even skip a beat.
Didn't skip a beat.
Let's unmute.
Oh, even better than ever, it looks like.
We have a question from Rick. Did Sandra ever meet President Eisenhower? Sounds like she did not. Although it was a commission from the president.
I have one question before we get to that answer. We got to ask Sandy to unmute. Because it follows up on the story she just told. It's interesting because I want to say this before, although they're getting the unmute to happen, is that we don't usually spend as much time as we have with Sandy, with our other guests, talking about the life prior to the military.
Correct.
There's so much there. It's such a rich and interesting history, and the picture that she painted that I believe, and my next question is going to be, after you deal with that much segregation, that much pressure, all of that, and yet you continue to serve your country. How do you reconcile that? That's like where I want to get to.
Sean, my friend Rob is the same thing. He says the same thing. He said he served as a police officer and in the military, and he's Black, and he said, I love my country. I don't air its dirty laundry, but it's my family, and sometimes family doesn't get along, but it's still your family.
Yes.
That's how he styles it, which I thought was interesting.
Very.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Her story would make the most amazing play.
Oh,
You're
sure.
somebody-
Sandy, are you going to
Yeah.
write?
Get on.
Are you writing your memoir?
Yeah.
Good.
Yay.
Yeah. We got to get together. I got to get with Mary. I can see that.
And we got to get Ken. We'll have to get Ken. He'll have to do the play, the
We got to
playwriting.
get
Yeah.
in. We got to
Yeah.
do this. But can you understand? Yeah, that to me, when I think about that, how you do that? How do you do that? How can you look me in the eye? Forget the second part of it, but I know you will understand. I mean,
Yeah.
So that's what happened. And I figured, hey, it ain't, I can't go. And so what happened, the word clearly got around, because when it came time for that shuttle bus, them to get on the shuttle bus, all of us to get on the shuttle bus, to go to the affair, I came down to wish them well. Because the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the whole thing was, Sandy, this is a mission, and in doing that mission, I was saving myself. I mean, the mission was for me not to get put out,
Right.
so we can open up doors of opportunity for others. So, I mean, I got to figure it out, and I got to do something. This thing ain't about me. It ain't, and this moment, this thing is about how this moment is perceived by the system.
Yeah.
At every moment. I mean, and will it open the door, or will it shut it? Will it put, that's the thing. So I think when you have been raised with that, and we've all been raised with cultural stuff, then I mean, it's not that you're just hearing it. It's not that it's a new thing to you. So that I was able to do it.
Yeah.
And just move on. But here's what happens. When you get in a position, this thing made me, I think, it gave me the strength to take risks. It gave later on, I'm now moving beyond OBMC, moving beyond these women, and this lady from Braniff Airlines who's putting this orange powder on my face because she never dealt with a black-faced woman before. When she came there to make us up. That was my learning moment.
Yeah.
That was my moment to my educational period. And I had to go through that to learn, so that years later I could grow into a leader. I'm telling you that I could grow, I could empower myself. I could not be afraid, and that's what, I mean, that helped, because it made me so okay. In retrospect, hey, thank you for the education.
Yeah.
It was coming. These kids, parents hollering for children to get out of the swimming pool. I mean, what it's all about before it happens, when you've lived a life of segregation, or I guess slavery, or whatever. It wasn't slavery, but that kind of life. But and so it prepared me to be that token Black female. And God knows I'm grateful. It prepared me, but it also prepared me, once you move to that level, then you keep on growing, you keep on moving, you work things out, you start seeing things, and it gives you strength.
I was going to say, that's the exact word that was popping in my head. Just the amount of strength, the personal strength that you have had through your whole life. And I know we're starting to get here close to the end of the program, so I want to give everyone a chance that if they have a question for you, that we
kick me
bring
out?
it in.
Kicking me
No
out?
way. We could be here for
This
a
is
couple hours if you want.
all over again.
Never. We've covered like the first 20 years of your life. We got. But I do want to open it up. If there's any questions, we do have one from Rick here. Did you ever get a chance to meet Eisenhower?
No, Rick, I didn't. But somehow, you know what? I have gotten 2 letters from his granddaughters. And I wonder, I don't know what, if anything is in his library. I think about that. But I never met him. I never met General Eisenhower. You know, I think about that. The blessing, I can't tell you the blessings. I have been saved by so many people and moved forward and pushed along and given another chance and put in, better places. Eisenhower was one. By the President of the United States, I was saved. I got to Hill Air Force Base. I'd never heard of Utah when they said, okay, you're going to Hill Air Force Base, Utah. That was one of my places I went to. And that's where I met my husband. He saved
Julio.
me. Julio. Everybody's been saving me. I ain't kidding. General Pearl Roby, who was the commanding officer, 4-star of, I think he was 3 or 4-star Air Materiel Command. He was the commander, and he lived there on the base hill. Somehow or other, he and his wife became enamored of Julio. Julio was a 2-striper. He was a Cuban. He was not a citizen. And he had come into the Air Force as an immigrant. I mean, you think of all of this stuff. But General Roby and his wife were very much, very involved in the chaplain's office. And Julio had taken tests. He was a mathematician. And they used him as such in the military. That's what he was, military. But they fell in love with Julio. And they would have Julio do little errands for them and fell in love with him like a son. And when I came on the base, Julio was in the chaplain's office where they kept the important information, the emergency files, and he was given the job of escorting me around. They heard this first Black officer was coming on the base. So he called me up, didn't even speak much English at the time. And he said, it's my job to escort you. And he did that. He was kind to me. He saw me around, showed me all over the place. I signed in. I reported into where I was supposed to report into, the hospital. And my commander was a Major Williams of Mississippi. I had no job. They were not ever prepared for me. And so I reported in. Major Williams said to me, you go down to the office and there's Airman McDonald. I remember stuff by heart. He goes to lunchtime, and you can take his seat at lunchtime. That's what he said. And dismissed me. I had no job. Again, I had to figure out, what do I do to save my career? Because they can put me out at a moment's notice, which is what Major Williams tried to do. I went down there, and after a few days of sitting in Airman McDonald's desk, at his desk during lunch hour, I decided to pull a chair and a desk into that office and create my own desk, and also to find a job, to create a job. And I went around all of the offices, and I discovered that in the records department, it was really a shambles, and they were, people were having a time finding stuff. And so I said, okay, I will become the records person. And I fixed up the records, and I started a history of the hospital, because I knew I had to show that I was of value.
Yeah.
3 months later, Major Williams wrote me an evaluation. He said I was shiftless. I mean, he never spoke to me. He said he had no idea how I had received a direct appointment. He said discharge immediately. I mean, I saw that. I called Julio. Julio's an airman in the chaplain's office. He'd lighten the candles. And I said, but he was the one who was taking care of me. He said, don't worry. And as God is my witness, this is the truth. He said, I will call you back. He called General Roby. Now, what 2-striper or 3-striper calls the commander of the Air Material Command? I mean, how do you do that? Julio somehow had wormed his way into their love, that he could pick up the phone and call General Pearl Roby. General Roby, he came, he called me. He said, I'll pick you up at 6 o'clock. He came, picked me up at 6 o'clock. He said, the general and his wife have invited us to dinner, and at 6 o'clock, and he will talk to you, and he will talk to you, which is insane. That doesn't happen. None of this stuff in my life happens. And so he took me to their home. You don't go to the commanding officer's home. I mean, you just don't. His wife was at the door. She let us in. She had cooked spaghetti. And she said to me, come and sit down. You eat, and then the general will talk to you. We ate. General Roby said to me afterwards, tell me about yourself. This is all implausible. I told him about myself. I told him what I was trying to do at the hospital. He said to me, that evaluation no longer exists. I tell you the truth. I mean, you just can't believe it. No, he tore it up. He said, tomorrow you will have a job. The next day, I reported to the 4754th Ammunition Squadron, the only female in that squadron, assistant chief personnel and administration of a 400 male squadron. That was my job. I reported in, and the rest is history. I ain't kidding. You will not believe it, because it doesn't happen in real life. I got all the documentation. My mother kept it, thank God. Because, I didn't. Mother did. But imagine, I cannot to this day believe it. Julio saved my life, saved my career, I'm here today because of him. General Roby saved my life. All these people saved my life. I mean, and and all of that made me know, hey, I got to fight. This is a mission that is worth fighting for. That is my job. And wherever I was in the military, which I did real well, I rose. I happened to get jobs that kept me moving.
Sandy, it couldn't be because you're just so darn likable.
Well, I think, people, they would call me at McGuire when I first got there. They thought I was, what do they call me, names? Too much. I mean, I did not act like a proper woman. I mean, I was too overboard. I forgot the names they called me, but they thought Well, I went all over. We were in, McGuire was my last duty station, but I spent a lot of years in Europe.
Yeah.
And I just happened to move up. I enjoy working.
Yeah.
And I really have a good head for looking at things and that don't work or that could work better, and reviewing them and remaking them. And they turn out well for the most part. And for the Air Force, I have done a lot of creations. I designed the first family support center, McGuire.
Right.
I mean, written programs, done a lot of programs and different things that have changed the system. And
in the end, how many years were you in the Air Force?
About 30 altogether. You put it all together.
I want to bounce to Todd here too. I'm sure if you have any final thoughts or questions.
Hey, Sandy, this is what an inspiration. I mean, part of our mission, Sandy, is inspiration and education, and you gave us both tonight.
Love that.
Thank you so much. We also have to say the results are in. We did a beauty contest tonight on Zoom here, everybody on Zoom, and you are the winner. And so congratulations on that. You won the beauty contest. Larry Googans came in a fairly close second. So maybe next time, Larry.
Always a bridesmaid, Larry.
Go Air Force.
Sandy, I
cannot
cannot thank you enough for sharing this slice of history that I didn't know about. I'd never heard of air ladies. I didn't know about girls having to wear girdles.
Yeah.
You
want to see my girdle?
Sandy, we read in the history books that the military was desegregated officially in 1948, and then that's the end of the story. But that's not the end of the story. That's just the beginning. And you really brought us up to date, at least to, the 1960s, about what it was like in the Air Force for a Black woman. Absolutely fascinating. Totally fascinating.
Thank you. I love this. I'm grateful to you. But it helped. It helped. I mean, nobody names me now. I brought a guy back. You won't believe this. You sitting around, I rose to the position. Well, I was, they created a new position. And I got transferred from Germany, hired from Germany for this position for 21st Air Force, wing supervisory social worker, because they were having so much problems, AIDS on them, all of this. And so they created this position, and also that person was in charge of family matters. And I happened to get hired for that job. And so I transferred from Germany to McGuire. And that's when I helped design the Family Support Center and created a program for foreign-born spouses. Because listen, I do have my degree in counseling psychology, and also I'm supposed to be knowledgeable. But guess what? I came aboard, and they were having so much domestic violence and all. And so a commander called me and he said, Sandy, this case is yours. That's when we were getting a lot of foreign-born wives from the Middle East to all over. And this guy had married this young lady, didn't speak her language. She didn't speak his. And he proceeded to bring her to McGuire and beat her half to death, the one who's drinking. And so they called me, Sandy, here's a case. You got to take care of this. Well, so I bring them into the office and I sit them down, both of them in a seat, and I'm facing them in a seat. And I said, I'm this brilliant counseling psychologist. So I start this interview and I said, tell me what happened. And I discovered that ain't nobody talking but this guy, the guy who just pounded this woman half to death. And it hit me, Sandy, either you're not fit for this, or, you're just not up to the task. I can't do a counseling session with people who, when the person who is beat all to hell can't even speak the language.
Mhm.
And so it's one of those magical moments when you realize, hey, this, I got to do better. I got to figure out how to handle cases that I cannot handle, because with all these foreign born brides who are speaking all different languages, we're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
We're going to have to figure out how to get them acculturated, assimilated. The system had no such thing. Now, all of these people were, coming into the country, into the military system. And so that's another program I created that's now throughout the military.
Hey, Sandy, I'm sorry, I want
go
to interrupt you because we're at the end of we're past actually the end of our program. But if you saw early tonight when I showed our VBC magazine, which comes out quarterly, I'd love to get your story in that magazine, and I'd love to call you and get some of the specifics down so we could get a version of your story in the magazine, because I think it's a story that our readers would love to read more about.
Well, whatever y'all do, let me know what I can do. Let me know. I'm Air Force.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sandy, so much. Thank you,
But
everybody,
don't
for joining
forget
us.
me now that you made that commitment.
Man, you are tough. Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
get on him, Sandy. I got your
Hey,
back.
hey,
I got your back.
Mary, depend on Mary. Mary, I count on you.
You got it, girl. You got it.
All right. All right.
Well, thank you, everyone, for
Gotta
coming on
get
tonight.
together.
Sandy, thank you
Hey,
so much
guess
for your
what?
time
I
tonight.
gotta tell y'all. I gotta tell you something real quick.
Sure.
Look, the VA is fixing, doing little things around the house. So we're going to be over there coming on the 16th to put in, just because Julio is disabled 100%, and fix the yard and fix around the house. So we're going to get it ready for sitting outside in the evening and talking and meeting with friends. So I'll leave this with Mary. We got to get together.
Oh, that sounds good. We can sit on the
I can
stoop
depend
like
on
in the
Mary.
old days. Sit on the stoop.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're gonna
Thanks for everything.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank
we
you,
will be
Sandy.
in touch. We'll see you all
Great.
Thursday night for Stories with Pete Mecca. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Good night.
Okay,
night.
thank you so much. Bye now.
night.
Thanks, depending on you.